Hi, my name is Quốc Nguyễn.
Hi, my name is McLaren Mosier.
My name is Jake.
From the University of Houston, and our attempt for uh, the Scudem 7 challenge is that we was doing problem A, introducing stress.
So the problem is we have two groups of astronauts, one on the ISS, one heading towards it. And the ISS astronauts are more experienced than the other ones, and we want to be able to model their stress before and after they meet up with each other. And so we assumes that productivity plateaus as the work assigned increases for each group, as well as only taking into account the astronauts' work as their only source of stress, because that's the only thing we're given information on. And then when modeling each group individually, we assume the ISS astronauts were more capable than the private ones. And so M we use to represent the capacity of either group, and it's the amount of work that they can do total in a day. And then S we use to represent stress, the amount of hours work that has to be done. And W we use to represent the amount of work that is assigned based off the schedule. And then A and B are arbitrary constants. A is the max amount of work that they can ever do in a day, and B is how adaptive a group is to when they're faced with more stress.
We come up with a model. We have come up with a following model because it gives us some of the desired property that is stated in the assumption. First is the rate of the capability is with respect to stress is 1, because at some certain point you add more work, it wouldn't affect your capability of finishing the work. And then at the same time, after that critical point, more work is added in, then you have the less chance of finishing it and accumulating the work for the next day. And secondly, we also have a discrete model for the stress with respect to times and the schedule. And this model rely heavily on the relation that the work needs to be done today is, which is a stress today, is equal to the previous work that is not done in the previous day, adding to the new works in the work schedule.
So for the simulation results, we used Python to model the stress versus capacity and stress over time. So the capability cannot exceed the stress level because you can't do more work than what you have to do. And due to our assumption that productivity diminishes with higher stress levels, the shape of the curve should reflect such behavior. And there's a threshold that a group can do due to the limit of the model. Okay, so here are some graphs that show the stress versus time, the work versus time, the stress versus the capacity, and the capacity is a function of time, where the work versus time graph is given in discrete time intervals. Here's a scenario where a group experiences a high level of productivity. So the stress reflects that schedule. In the stress versus capacity graph, it's the stress is not ordered, and it's supposed to reflect stress versus capacity as a function of time. And then we mix these two models. So when the two groups meet each other, they are meant to have both of their maximums added together, and the adaptability, the p-value of both of these groups is averaged to give us a new model shown in this graph, where orange is the combined model, red is the experienced astronauts that are already on the International Space Station, and the green graph is the astronauts that have just arrived. And the black dotted lines give the max capabilities for each group.
So here for optimal scheduling, we want to find a schedule that will minimize the amount of time to finish all the tasks that the astronaut have to do during the mission. And to do this, we look at the threshold where more stress would affect the productivity. Hence, the schedule should be a constant to maximize, to minimize the number of days and times to finish the job. And here are some graph when the schedule is at that threshold. And here is the threshold where in the graph is where stress affect productivity. After that, we looked at the stability of the stress with respect to the time schedule. We varying time schedule by epsilon and found that S is big O epsilon plus for the previous plus for F of W. So we can conclude that S is stable, stress is stable with respect to the work schedule. And so the limitation we have for this model is that our model does not account for some of the measures that is important, such as how important and difficult is a job. We assume that all the jobs are the same, and they can be accumulated and work for the next day. And secondly, our model our model assumes that there's no more job that is needed to add it to the schedule. So meaning the amount of job is constant throughout the mission. And yeah, and that's our attempt to this problem A. Thank you. That seems good, right?
Okay.
Yeah.